Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys. This comes from American Bar Association. Abusive Guardianships and the Loss of Identity. Dated November 30th, 2022. Summary. An individual's identity may be lost when appointed a guardian to take over making decisions for their lives. And it is even worse if the guardian abuses, neglects, or financially exploits those under their care. If you suspect abuse, it's important to report it to the court or Adult Protective Services, or I would imagine if you're a child, Child Protective Services, for whatever that's worth nowadays. Courts should only appoint a guardian after considering less restrictive alternatives. Yeah, Scientology. And not use it as a way to traffic children, in my opinion. Courts should only appoint a guardian after considering less restrictive alternatives that seek to preserve an individual's identity and autonomy. Courts should remove guardians who fail to uphold their duties. Courts should remove guardians who fail to uphold their duties. Like the guy that I read about yesterday, the Scientologist that sexually abused the 11-year-old girl, and I think the other girl was 13, sisters, whom he was a guardianship of in Scientology. Yeah, I covered that story yesterday. At the crux of a person's identity is the ability to make decisions based on their own goals, needs, and preferences. When the court appoints a guardian, an individual may lose their identity as someone steps in to make decisions on their behalf. Unfortunately, guardianship can also result in abusive conduct and behavior. Abusive conduct and behavior. Such guardianships may require legal interventions to prevent further abuse and the loss of a person's identity from occurring. Following law school, my first job was to head up an Adult Protective Services office in northern Indiana. It was during my tenure in this office that I became aware of abusive guardianships and their effect on vulnerable adults. Most guardianships are initially sought to keep an individual safe, and to prevent harm from occurring, especially with children. However, our office would sometimes become involved in cases where the person appointed by the court used the guardianship to abuse, neglect, or financially exploit the individual under their care. In some cases, the abuse was quite overt, and the guardians would seek to deprive the individual, like a child, of their rights or take their own money without providing for their basic needs, including food, clothing, or shelter. Well, look at how thin the Scientologists are. We also encountered cases involving guardians who refused to act on behalf of individuals, which included not seeking services, benefits, or making appropriate housing arrangements. Our office would often intervene in these types of cases and seek to remove the guardian. Or replace the guardian with a successor guardian if necessary. Yeah, also they like to hijack the powers of attorneys. I know that. Including health power of attorney. Especially if there's a will involved and they're trying to get their grubby hands on the money. Facts. One abusive guardianship case we intervened in involved a 19-year-old male with mild intellectual disability. He attended a public high school and was on track for receiving a certificate of completion. Listen closely. However, he did not have a good relationship with his mother or her boyfriend. In fact, police informed our office that he got into a physical altercation with his mother's boyfriend and was injured as a result. Following this altercation, the mother obtained guardianship over her son and prevented him from leaving the residence. They used that to handle him. He was probably tired of being abused. It happens. And a lot of times they'll get the police involved too. Sometimes the police are knowing, and sometimes the police, their hands are tied. The police cannot do their duty if the courts don't back them up. Following this altercation, the mother obtained guardianship over her son and prevented him from leaving the residence. He's 19 years old. As guardian, his mother forced him to live with his alleged abuser and isolated him from his family and friends. What does that sound like, you guys? Sound like Scientology? Due to these concerns, our office intervened and requested the appointment of a guardian ad litem. The guardianship case, following an investigation, the GAL and our office recommended removing the guardian and terminating the guardianship outright, as there was no need for continuation of the guardianship. This is a happy ending. The court granted this recommendation, and the individual was able to move away from his abusive guardian and receive services and supports from his grandparents. That's good. Not all abusive guardianship cases involve family members. Not all abusive guardianship cases involve family members, Scientology. Some involve suspicious friends who take advantage of those individuals under their care. For example, our office became involved in another case involving an older adult who was placed under guardianship by her good friends. These friends also transferred her money into an account she could not access and used the funds for their personal benefit. Further, they took possession of her personal items and collectibles, placing them in various rooms throughout their own house. Wow. After our office became aware of the situation, we worked with the older adult's family members and removed the good friends as guardians. One of her family members was later appointed as successor guardian. Further, we worked with law enforcement regarding the criminal allegations of financial exploitation involving her good friends and former guardians. During my time at APS, we also investigated cases where the appointed guardian refused to act or take care of the person under guardianship. In one situation, we found that a disabled young adult had a guardian who was frequently unavailable and refused to plan for his care. The guardian was a family member who lived in another state, and although she received his Social Security benefits, would not pay for his care. In this case, our office intervened in the guardianship and was able to have the guardian removed by the court for failure to perform her duties. Failure to perform her duties. Where have we heard that before? Under the guardianship. The court then appointed a professional guardian as the successor guardian. This case illustrates that abuse can include the failure of a guardian to act, especially when supports or services are needed and the guardian fails to provide for those. So what do you do if you become aware of an abusive guardianship? Some jurisdictions have established processes for communicating complaints or concerns involving guardians to the court. You can also contact APS to report concerns involving an abusive guardianship. Note, most states have mandatory reporting statutes. Most states have mandatory reporting statutes. that require individuals to believe that there is abuse, neglect, or financial exploitation. To check on the mandatory reporting statutes in your state, you can look here. I'm not going to click on that. You guys can check it out if you need it. Individuals can also contact law enforcement. Yeah, it depends on where you're at. You guys know. If the abusive guardianship involves concerns or allegations of criminal activity. Finally, in some cases, a court can appoint a GAL, a guardian ad litem, to investigate concerns involving an abusive guardianship. The guardian ad litem can then make recommendations to the court which may result in the removal of the guardian, the appointment of a successor guardian, or an outright termination of the guardianship. Abusive guardianships often result in the loss of an individual's identity, which may include the right to choose where to live, where to date or marry. Does that sound familiar? Really sounds like Scientology, doesn't it? Huh. Well, what do I know? Who to vote for and with whom to socialize. This sounds just like Scientology. A guardian, after considering less restrictive alternatives that seek to preserve an individual's identity and autonomy. Under the National Guardianship Association's standards of practice, guardians are required to first ask what the person under guardianship wants when making a decision. NGA Standards of Practice 2013. Guardianships who do not take that individual's goals. I'm going to say this again. Guardianships who do not take that individual's goals, needs, and preferences into consideration can become overly restrictive and abusive. Like the Scientology LRH policies? Under such circumstances, courts should remove guardians for failure to uphold their duties. Courts should remove guardians for failure to uphold their duties and to preserve the individual's identity, dignity, and way of life. Oh, Erica C.R. Costello. Big up to Erica C.R. Costello. Erica C.R. Costello, J.D., M.A., NCG, is Associate Director at the ABA Commission on Law and Aging and provides substantive legal support and expertise in the area of elder abuse, neglect, financial exploitation. Hold on. Where was I? And adult guardianship, supported decision-making, and access to courts. She has a BA from Indiana University, Bloomington at MA, thinking that's Masters of Arts, from Northwestern University, and a JD, I don't know what that is. That's all that law stuff. From Brandis School of Law at the University of Louisville. She is licensed to practice law in Indiana and is a nationally certified guardian. Well, she doesn't touch child guardianship, and I understand. You know, they go into their specialties, but there's some very good information there. And then her whole resume is there. So I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. I'm going to be doing more on guardianship. And I wanted to touch on the Nathan Rich book tonight, but I think I'm going to wait for tomorrow on that. So anyways, have a good one, you guys. Peace.